So Solzhenitsyn was a Soviet dissident, and he was very popular until he pointed out that the elite were the totalitarians. But one of the things that he pointed out that they didn't like was the idea that you should not live by lies. Because totalitarianism is a society, it's a system of government that is built on lies, based on lies, and requires lies. Bills like this are lies, full of lies, legislated lies. So, I don't know where I'm going to go with my notes on this, but I do want to note that there's a couple places in here where it says on the marriage certificate must not be marked as amended to indicate in any manner that the name on the license to marry has been changed. And perhaps that's where the confusion gets when the department may only amend a sex designation for an individual's driver's license 3 times upon the individual's request, no court order. Any further request from the individual or the additional sex designation requires submission of a court order. 3 times, then it needs a court order. Now, this bill does not speak to everything that's going to have to happen in terms of documentation when that happens those 3 times. Now, you can't change your sex. Again, it's chromosomally embedded in every single one of your cells. 3 times, any further requests. 3 times, any further requests. And then it talks about unnecessary government interference. Well, since your role as a government is to secure the rights of the citizens, I'm really kind of curious what you consider unnecessary government interference, because this is unnecessary government interference. And if you want to get out of this stuff, maybe instead of loving big government, maybe we should start looking at changing and getting out of the practice of documenting and controlling citizens, because as the Right Reverend Representative Dr. something noted last year about marriage licenses, it was just a matter of control. Because previously the idea of marriage was just between you and the church. Yet the state stepped in for the purpose of control. Maybe the state needs to get out of the control process instead of more control, because everything seems to be necessary legislation because you don't know your role, and that is to secure the rights of the citizens who put you here. You're not here to govern. You are here to represent. Now, I'm concerned with a bill like this, very concerned with a bill like this for lots of reasons, but one of them is that it's spawned from an idea that this is the civil rights of our generation, and that seems to trigger a savior complex. You have a savior complex where you know better, and so you don't listen, and so everything here comes couched in the idea that this is about anti-trans. Everybody wants to say this is anti-trans. There's nothing, the parental groups didn't come here for anti-trans. They came here because you attacked the underlying self-evident, creator-endowed parental responsibilities that underlie the rights. That's what you attacked. And if you look at the laws of nature and nature's God, as I talked about earlier, you go mess with a nest. Go mess with a den. It is a parental right, it's a parental responsibility to protect the young. The young are not your playthings. The young are not for you to toy around with. The young are not for you to surgically manipulate and turn into pharmacological experiments. That's why 800 people signed up to testify. That's why 500 people were left hanging in the wind, because you didn't care about what they had to say, because you didn't care to have that conversation with them before.
Representative deGraaf, please don't accuse people of caring or not caring. Thank you.
500 citizens signed up to tell you their opinion. You chose not to hear it. The choice was made to not hear it. All 800 couldn't even listen to those parents for 3 minutes. And they were not talking anti-trans like you want to turn this into, because that allows you to hide behind some level of virtue preening that makes you feel morally superior. This was about undermining parental rights. That's what this bill is about. That's what this bill remains about. Plus all the complicated stuff of changing your identity 3 times, changing your sex marker, changing your chromosomes 3 times. I'm not sure how you do that, but you go in and you change your chromosomes 3 times. So this culminates on this continual sexualization of children. And stranger danger is very appropriate for this bill, because when we talked about children and secrets, yes, it's very appropriate. If you're going to talk about children, and when you would tell children and you would say, if somebody keeps secrets from you, what do you tell a child to say when an adult comes to them who is very interested in your sexual nature? That is what you would tell a kid. That's what they would say. They would say, stranger danger. And now all of a sudden we're going to legislate it and then say it's wrong for me to say here in the well. If it's not a problem, if you're not keeping secrets, if adults are not keeping secrets from adults who are intently interested in the child's sexuality, then we don't have a problem. But this bill is about keeping secrets of adults who are intently interested in the sexuality of children. That is a problem.
Representative deGraaf, please be sure not to stray from the bill. Focus on the content of the bill. Thank you.
Well, ma'am, this is about gender identity. Now, one thing you could look at here in this gender identity thing is you could just substitute individuality. Individuality would mean an individual's way of expressing the individual's identity to the outside world, typically demonstrated through the appearance, dress, behavior, or name. You could leave out all of the ideological stuff that is so important. You could take that all out, and how the individual chooses to be addressed, and you could stay out of the compelled speech, and you could stay out of requiring children to speak lies. But no, that is the important thing about bills like this. Now, one thing that I think about in this is something that we've had a lot of discussions about is the military. Because there's a problem with the military in general. We've got our facilities, and Colorado is becoming very unsafe for military facilities when the governor allows hostile nations to buy property all the way up until the fence line of an installation. And now we have a General Assembly that is creating an environment in Colorado where parents literally do not feel safe in Colorado. Now, I suppose if you're in line with this ideology, then maybe you feel safe, but parents that are not aligned with this ideology, they're looking at this and they're asking me, are my kids safe in Colorado? And I have to say, I do not know. Because there are adults that are asking children to keep secrets who are intently interested in their sexuality. And I think that's a problem, and parents around the country think that's a problem. Now, what happens? What happens when the military installations, and they say, yeah, I don't want to go to Colorado because as soon as I put my kid in pre-K, they start talking to them about maybe you're born in the wrong body. Maybe we need to get you, how about we let you loose in the library?
Representative deGraaf, you have 45 seconds remaining.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Debupath itself recognizes that 30% of the kids that go through the transition surgery become 19 times more suicidal. They've had about 7 times more mental health issues, crisis. Guess what the solution is? The solution isn't mutilating their genitals. Keep your hands off our kids. Keep your hands off their genitals.
Representative Luck.